Okay, so this week we have a solar eclipse happening in the sign of Aries. This is the first sign of the zodiac wheel, and it is the archetype of the child and the warrior. So it's likely to evoke those energies, people behaving in a way that's either childlike or childish. What's the difference? Well, childlike is when the magical child is driving the bus. In other words, we've done enough healing on our childhood wounds to have returned to a state of innocence, to a lightness of being. So we're playful. So this eclipse is really going to highlight the state or the health of our inner child. If we've neglected our personal growth and our healing, then our wounded child is really going to come to the fore this week. And the wounded child is the part that sees themselves as a victim. And this is highlighted by the fact that the eclipse will be exact in its conjunction with Chiron. What does that mean? Well, an exact conjunction is when, from our vantage point on Earth, two heavenly spheres appear to be on top of each other. And this is going to be to the minute. Okay, so you couldn't get a more magnified concert between these two aspects, the sun and moon at 19 degrees Aries, and Chiron. So what is Chiron? Well, Chiron was discovered in 1977, the year that Star Wars came out with a new mythos for us. And this is very important to note because our story about us creates our perception of ourselves, our identity, and that's a core theme for Aries. So if we perceive ourselves as the victim, then we will be reactive in how we respond to life's challenges, to the chaos of life. We've also got Eros, the asteroid of chaos, in the dance. So we're likely to be tested on how we respond to the unexpected. Now, uh, with um, with Chiron, his myth has been misrepresented. So, from a patriarchal standpoint, we see him as the wounded healer, the healer that can't ever heal his wounds. And this is a very limiting perception. Ironic when, his whole lesson is about how we perceive ourselves as how we heal. If we see ourselves as a shaman, as a healer who chose all of our specific woundings, then we take our power back from the system, from, seeing ourselves as a patient, powerless, passive. Whereas if we over identify with a diagnosis, with an ailment, with a perception of who we are from outside of ourselves, this is debilitating, and this means that we can't recover from our wound. So, in the original myth of Chiron, he was the son of two serpentine parents, i.e., Kundalini activated tantrika parents, all right? So, beings that were self realized, that had awakened their consciousness up through the seven gates, demigods, okay? And he was chosen as a child to be raised by medicine women, by healers in a cave, which is equivalent to a dark room retreat or a grail retreat. And so, this is the mark of many shamanic indigenous tribes where if a child has extrasensory gifts, they note very early this child is going to be a healer, a medicine man or a medicine woman. And so they limit how much, they're bombarded by other viewpoints and conditioning so that they can listen to themselves. Because ultimately, that's how we heal the wounded child, by listening to what it is that the inner child needs and wants. And I'll give you an example. When I was 26, I was so maddened by the madding crowd that I ran away to nature and did a sabbatical. And in nature, we can't not be the natural self. So my natural child came out and I met myself. Now, apparently, Joseph Campbell went through a similar process, and I am on a mission. I would like to create, a beautiful retreat space where youth can come to do a sabbatical in a place of nature and beauty to meet themselves. Because in meeting ourselves, in truly seeing ourselves through our own perception, we can heal the distorted perceptions that created stories that aren't true, illusions that wounded us. So, this eclipse, you might feel reclusive. You might feel like, I just need to be on my own to face myself in order to reframe your perception of yourself. Now, the patriarchal version of the Chiron myth says that he was rejected by his mother, i.e., creating, the Oedipal mother complex, um, and that he was orphaned and abandoned. Now, again, if we have that perception of ourselves, then we're going to perpetually project that onto situations. We're going to subconsciously expect that our needs won't be met. And in the myth of Aries, that belief is what causes the wounded child to erupt, to throw a tantrum. Okay? It's not fair, what about me? Okay? So, we are ultimately responsible for meeting our own needs if we are an adult. All right? No one else is responsible for us. And that we put that on anybody else is a flag that we are immature, that there is a child in an adult's body, i.e., a narcissist, which is all of us when we haven't done the work of healing and personal growth. So, this new moon eclipse is a time for us to ask, who am I and what do I want? And those questions change as we mature. So when we go through our different life stages, we need to review those questions. Who am I now? What do I want now? Because our values change as we change and grow. So if you're feeling impatient, frustrated, this is, you're right on track, okay, with the sun moving through this first stage of the hero's journey as it does during a solar transit in Aries, which is the ordinary world, when we identify what we've outgrown, what we aren't excited and stimulated by anymore. So to answer the question, what do I want? We need to ask, what's lighting me up? Yeah? And what no longer holds energy for us? Okay, because if something doesn't ignite our enthusiasm, Aries is a fire sign, there's not going to be money in that for us. It's not going to sustain us. We're not going to inspire support from others to come and join us and help us. Now, there's a lot of hype around this new moon, and that is because, the sun and moon are going to be in an exact conjunction with the North Node in Aries, which is our collective compass north, where we're headed as a collective, our future trajectory. And, Aries can be a sign of conflict and war if we are unhealed. Okay, so when we come from wound, we wound others with unconscious words and actions. So rather than get all up in ourselves about the state of the world and be fearful about World War III and apocalyptic kind of, dystopian trajectories, the only thing that we can do to create a peaceful world is to embody peace. Yeah, on the understanding that everything is interconnected in the quantum field. We need to respond as alchemists, not activists. If we respond in reactivity, we perpetuate war. Okay, that is using force, cause and effect, karma. Whereas if we transmute the wound in us, if we heal it, we become a part of the quantum that is healing. Okay, this is what it is to be a rainbow warrior, yeah? A conscious rebel who is the change they want to see in the world. So This week, as we approach this total solar eclipse on Tuesday on the 8th or the 9th, depending on which side of the date line you're on, look at healing the conflict within. Where are you stuck between your head and your heart? Your feelings, what it is you most yearn to do, and the, oh, I should do this, yeah, in order to be secure, yeah. So this is a time to really get clear on what is it that my heart wants. Because if you are not in alignment, all right, so we can have head stuff, headaches. Aries rules the head. And this is also a warning to not try and impose our will on others. Yeah, just because we think they should do something or should watch something or should take a certain action, who are we to project onto them? Yeah, we can only be responsible for ourselves, okay, unless we have young ones in our care, and then of course we're responsible for them, but we're not responsible for another adult. And you know, Aries can polarize into being so independent it avoids people, all right. And it's not just people that have sun, moon, or their rising sign in Aries. During an Aries transit, we can all polarize into, well, I'm not going to play with you anymore. You know, I'm just going to do things on my own, my way or the highway. But the opposite is when we're overly codependent, okay? When we think that we know best and we impose our will on others. And this is patronizing. This, you know, says that other people don't know what's best for them. So that is what can create conflict or just being insensitive to the needs and the sovereign free will of others. So at the time of the eclipse, we're going to have a stellium all in Aries, including Venus. Okay, so in our relationships, there might be an urge to be more independent, yeah, to take space for the self, to focus on what it is we need and want. So don't be reactive if your partner pulls away at this time. We'll have the North Node, so our collective trajectory, the Sun, the Moon, Mercury retrograde, the planet of communication. So this is a time for communication with the self. Yeah, you might want to look at a childhood photo of yourself and talk to your younger self. Yeah, telepathically, in order to access your inner child and ask them what they need. Or you can draw with your left hand and then read your drawing like it's a dreamscape as a way of inviting your inner child to communicate to you. Or you can visualize your inner child in your sacral, in your emotional center where they sit, and ask them what it is they need. So they're my thoughts. The numerology, of course, happening on the 8th in the Northern Hemisphere. The 8th of the 4th, 2024 adds up to 848, and altogether that adds up to 2, which is about being able to work together with others cooperatively, the opposite sign of Libra, not polarizing, okay, not dividing and conquering. So, yeah, I hope that's helpful. It's a very auspicious time for new beginnings, a new chapter, a new fresh start, even a new story, a new identity. Um, but yeah, time to do work on the inner child if you're starting to feel frustrated, angry, bored, and blaming other people. I hope that's helpful. You have my blessing to share it, and thanks so much for tuning in.